Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode here of On the Fin Side with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the Fansided Network. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is fanatic _ pick. We're going to talk about a lot here tonight, and mostly revolving around training camp, kind of the storylines that are going on, the roster odds that we're looking at, and who's really stock is really rising and falling as we get through August here. And gosh, what is August 5th today? So a week from tomorrow, the Dolphins are going to have their first preseason game. They're also going to have some scrimmages against the Bucks and the Eagles along the way. We'll be sure to keep you updated on all that. And kudos to everyone from the Miami Herald, Sun Sentinel, and Sports Illustrated, because I wasn't there at camp, so I'm really relying on them as well as other people here from the Dolphins community, as well as Dolphins beat writers. But Paul, before we get into anything camp related, we're a little late to the party on this, and I'm actually pleased that we are, because Steve Ross has cost the Miami Dolphins their first round pick in 2023 and their third round pick in 2024. And it shouldn't be a surprise, because typically once 18 months goes by and Steve Ross has not tripped over yet another coffee table, I start thinking, okay, when is the other shoe going to fall? When is the next scandal going to take place? And how is Steve Ross going to one up himself? Well, he did. And I'm afraid to say that the owner of the Miami Dolphins may be great in the business world, but at this, he is a bumbling doofus again.
Yeah, but you know what? While Steve Ross was somewhat at fault, reading through that documentation, Bruce Beal seemed to be more of the driving force as far as that goes, which I found very interesting. But again, it's, we've still got a ton of draft picks next year. He's not going to take away from the season. And heck, Steve Ross joined the list of people suspended longer than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he did. And what you just said there about Bruce Beal, I agree with you on that. And literally, there are between 2019 and 2022, the receipts from Bruce Beal talking specifically to Tom Brady and to his agent Don Yee. I agree. I mean, I'm going to repeat a lot of the talking points a lot of people have said, but they're true. A lot of them. That's why they're talking points sometimes. I don't care about tampering. I don't. Everyone does it, and if this is not a moral thing or the integrity of the game, everyone freaking does it. If you don't think everyone does it, you explain to me why 15 minutes after the tampering period begins, you've got complex contracts drawn up already. So I don't care about that part. But don't be stupid. Don't get caught. I have the same thought about tampering the same way I did marijuana a couple of years ago when everybody smoked it. Just don't get caught. I'm sorry. It's not a good message for the kids, but don't get caught.
Yeah, I mean, or at least keep it at a realistic level. The interesting thing to me too is, as far as tampering goes, we've known about Brady tampering with players to get them where he is. So, it's not a shock. I mean, it sounds like most of Steve Ross's conversations with him, while still not right, were more about eventually becoming a partner in the Dolphins and an executive and all this other stuff, which we all know Steve Ross loves his celebrity co-owners and executives.
Yeah, they shouldn't like him, nor should anybody else. That's all I've got to say about it. I mean, I'm sorry. And the thing is, the depressing thing is, it appears that the next in line to own the Dolphins would be Bruce Beal, who's already beclowned himself in front of the entire world already. But we're not going to just be all doom and gloom here today, Paul, because it's training camp. Really sounds like, I'm sensing a really different energy here different than anything really over the last 20 years. I mean, I'm not exaggerating on this. I mean, you're talking about, Tyreek Hill, the energy he's brought to the table, paired with Jalen Waddle, and on the defensive side of the ball, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland having great camps, showing that at least it appears that they're not going to hit that sophomore slump. I mean, Dolphins have a lot of boxes checkmarked here heading into the season, at least as it seems here in camp.
As big of a story as Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are, they're not the only story though. I mean, the swagger that Tua has come into camp with, and really the fact that Teddy Bridgewater may not be a tremendous starter in the NFL, but he's at least a decent one. And Tua's outshone him in every aspect, from what I've seen and heard. The way that those deep balls are getting uncorked, and I forget who it was, but there was somebody that's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. He threw 65-yarder against air, and I think it was maybe Marcellus Wiley, I'm not sure, but came out and said, if you can throw 65 yards, you can throw 65 yards. Like, air has nothing to do with it, and just every time you look, Tua's raining passes around the entire field. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he's really got a swagger with the media and with the fans, and you name it.
2 points you made there I want to piggyback on is, yeah, he's throwing the ball 65 yards in the air, and I love the attitude Tua's bringing, because why not? I've said this from the beginning, or over the last at least couple of months here, is that Tua's heading into his third year. If Tua talks the talk and doesn't walk the walk, he's gone. If he stays back and he's reserved and plays doesn't play very well, he's gone too. So what's the difference? Go down swinging, go down with a smile on your face, go down with that same energy that Tyreek Hill and Mike McDaniel have brought to this organization. So I'm in full support of that. And secondly, on Tua, everyone has seen probably that 65-yard beautiful pass in training camp. I love how these training camp videos are being leaked out now. I really do. It's given us something to look at here in early August. Tua can drive the ball downfield when he plants his feet. When he is making off-balance throws, when he doesn't have that runway to plant his feet and throw the ball, then it's a problem. That's always going to be the case with him. I don't think that's ever going to change. But I like what I'm seeing with him, and I think in this type of offense, he's going to be a better version of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think he's starting to quiet a lot of folks right now, and that's a cool thing to see. I think he's a different quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think given the personnel that Miami has right now, he is the perfect quarterback for the personnel Miami has and the scheme that they're running. And you watch him with all of his receivers, Preston Williams, and he's really putting the ball on the money time after time after time after time after time. And you're really seeing that accuracy that Tyreek Hill was talking about, that Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about in the past, and that a lot of people internal to the team have talked about as far as Tua goes.
Right. And one thing I'll say about Tua, and again, I am not somebody who pounds on the table for Tua. I'm hopeful for him this year, and I feel we're going to know about him this year. That's the most exciting thing for me. One thing I'll say is that I saw glimpses in the middle of last year where I felt that his accuracy and his feet and the way he could adjust coverages with his eyes, I thought that was special. And that's so important here in this offense. Jimmy Garoppolo has the ability to do that too. And I keep going back to Jimmy Garoppolo because I think Tua is more talented than Garoppolo, but I think they're built a little bit similar as well. I just think Tua has a little bit more of a higher upside on that. But a stat that I wanted to point out is last year after Tua got back into the starting lineup, after he got hurt against the Bills and he came back against the Ravens, between the Ravens game and the rest of the year, Tua, 73.1% of the time, either completed the pass or had the pass dropped. I mean, you want to talk about accuracy, that's that. And yes, I know there are a lot of shorter passes, but they weren't all short passes. We saw those those deep balls to, to Mac Hollins against the Jets. We saw the balls in tight spaces downfield or in those intermediate ranges to Jalen Waddle. And those are the things we've got to see. But I think in this offense, with all the motion, it's going to fit really well with Tua, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it's and the cool thing is we all know how good Xavier Howard is. He's arguably the best cornerback in the league, and Tua is making throws against and Xavier Howard's one of the best at baiting folks into throwing interceptable balls, knowing his closing speed, etc. And not only is Tua beating coverage around the Dolphins secondary, which is pretty huge, but he's throwing perfect strikes in pretty impressive coverage against Xavier Howard, where only his receivers can get it. And it seems to be happening a decent amount, which that's a big litmus test for me. If you can throw the ball against somebody that Xavier Howard is blanketing and make completions that way, I can't think of a corner in the NFL you can't take on and try to throw that perfect ball around them.
There's so many quotes, and I don't have them in front of me, but Tyreek Hill is unguardable. And, you have to decide whether you're going to go head to head with him and you're going to risk him going over the top and beating you deep, or you're going to just give him the short underneath stuff all game. And if you give him the short underneath stuff all game, that's fine. That's what he did last year when he caught over 110 balls with the Chiefs last year. So either way, I'm good. And I like that so far. There's such a rhythm between Tua and Tyreek Hill. I mean, you look at these practice reports here. Day one, Tua 15 and 30-yard passes here to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill breaking tackles. And then you've got a few days later that 65-yard pass downfield. And then you've got Tua, Bridgewater, and Skylar Thompson rotating in and rotating out. And still, it's like the work doesn't change for Tyreek Hill. And then he comes out in the beginning, pumps up the crowd. Love that stuff. Actually, no, I take a step back. I usually don't like that stuff. But why not have energy coming out? What do you have to lose?
100%. And, we're talking about Tua. We're talking about the receivers. There's been a lot of other standouts in camp. Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland have been huge. And then the front line has done a phenomenal job as well. Excuse me.
You right there, pal?
Yeah.
Hey,
wow.
get
That
your
violent
stuff
sneeze.
get yourself together for a second. I'm gonna because I really want to talk about something Jim McEwen said there in chat that is kind of a little bit more on the negative side. He said, so instead of a Pro Bowl left guard, we're making Connor Williams a first-time center. So much for all that cap space. Well, I don't agree with the second part of that comment, but I've always wanted the Dolphins to have a center and keep Connor Williams at left guard, because one of the big things in camp here, Connor Williams is not snapping the ball well. We've seen this play out before with Dan Skippy Skura and with Ted Karras, some concerns there. Luckily, Karras ironed those out throughout the year. The good thing is, I do think if this really does become a problem, Dieter, when he returns back to health, is going to be inserted there at center. Connor Williams is going to be moved back to left guard. So that's the advantage of having a player like Connor Williams, who's a college left tackle, a really good left guard with the Cowboys, and somebody who's shown the ability to play center too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something I think when we were talking about our training camp battles, I kind of looked at and said, I thought that was going to be the case. I think Connor Williams may end up settling back at left guard, but we've also got to remember he's never really been a center. There's something McDaniel saw that they're trying it out. I'm willing to give McDaniel a little bit of runway there. So, but no, like back to what I was saying before, it's Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis having huge camps. The linebackers are doing a phenomenal job with the blitz. And it sounds crazy to say it right after that, but it sounds like the offensive line overall is doing okay. And with the speed that they have on the outside, with the speed that they have at running back, you don't have to do more than okay for long to look like a pretty damn good unit. as far as the offensive line goes.
Yeah, and I like that. I got to park myself here for a second as far as Austin Jackson's concerned. I like the shape that Austin Jackson has showed up at. 6'5", 310. And he looks the part, he talks the part, he just has to play the part. And now he's 23 years old. He's been around Teron Armstead now. He's not expected to be the alpha in the room. It's time for him to play. And supposedly he's playing pretty well. I still hold out concern that in the first couple of games in the year, Austin Jackson ruins the first couple of drives, and we're saying to ourselves, what did you expect? It's Austin Jackson protecting to his blind side. There were a million other right tackles out there. But for right now, there's every reason to be encouraged with him at right tackle and Liam Eichenberg at left guard. There's some talent on this Dolphins offensive line here. And Paul, before, we've been jumping kind of all over the place here, but let's start going position by position. We've talked about Tua at quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is, look, not good reports coming out of camp from him, but he's somebody that there are players in training camp and in preseason I just don't care about, okay? Teddy Bridgewater is one of them. Teddy Bridgewater is a 10-year NFL pro. We know what we're going to get out of him. We're going to get a better version of Jacoby Brissett as a backup quarterback if he's forced to come to the lineup. That's it. Skylar Thompson has really been up and down, but his arm strength, according to reports, has been a little bit better than what people have thought. There were a couple of problems here in day 2 or day 3 of camp where he had some fumbled snaps that needs to get ironed out. He's going to be the one that Skylar Thompson, either he proves that you keep him as the third quarterback. A lot of teams don't keep a third quarterback, or you don't. And if you don't, maybe you get him back on the practice squad, maybe you don't.
Yeah. I'm just sorry. I'm just staring and thinking about Preston Williams right now.
Okay, let's jump to wide receiver then. And I'll obviously we've got 4 locks. We've agreed on that from the beginning. We've got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Eric Ezukanma, and we're going to get to him in a bit. The nerve of Preston Williams, I've got to say. I mean, the entitlement that he thinks he has after
not playing past Halloween in a single season.
Yeah, and then fumbling punts in preseason or in training camp here. Yeah, I'll let you take the floor.
I've been done with Preston Williams despite his promise for at least 2 years now. And if Preston Williams wants to be this emotional about his role on a team where not only they've extended him and signed him to a new contract, I think it was this year, but you're log jammed behind Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Eric Ezukanma, probably Lynn Bowden. You've got Braylon Sanders being a standout every single day of camp. And when you get your opportunities, yeah, you've caught a couple, but you've also dropped several blatantly. And then you want to go to social media and cry about it. Come on, man. Like, and then talk about how you feel like you're better than any receiver on the field. Like, dude, really? Seriously? Come on.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I will say that I think Preston Williams has better talent than for a 25-year-old receiver who is making $1.5 million a year. I think other teams that are in need of a receiver that have been talked about, like the Broncos, who just lost Tim Patrick, like the Cowboys, who just lost James Washington, or I think James Washington didn't. Yeah. And somebody who may need a big bodied receiver who can come in and be a contested catch guy. Yeah. I think they should fling a 6th or 7th round pick to the Dolphins. And
I think so too. I would love
but he's done on this team. He is not going to make this roster. I will guarantee he will not make this roster. At wide receiver. And that brings up an interesting look at this position, Paul, because Braylon Sanders is turning into the new Kirk Merritt. and people are getting carried away a little bit now. He's had a few good days at camp. He had a 35-yard catch the other day, and he also had a one-handed catch as well that replicated, according to reports, that catch against Alabama, which was like a once-in-a-lifetime catch against Jalen Armour Davis. You remember against Alabama last year. Braylon Sanders is averaging 25 yards a catch over the last 2 years. But the thing is with him is he's never been able to stay healthy, not even for a short period of time. But he is looking very promising right now. He's got a long way to go. I don't think he has as much clout even as Kirk Merritt did last year. But there's a lot of promise there, and there's a lot of speed.
There is, and there's definitely not a spot on the roster for Preston and Braylon. Or the Dolphins should petition the NFL to give them one roster spot for the two of them. And you just play whichever one's healthy that week. That's a little worrisome, but at least when he's getting his opportunities, Braylon Sanders is performing and putting on a show. And that goes a long way for me.
It gets interesting at wide receiver because there's a logjam after the first four, and I still maintain. I mean, the Dolphins snuck Mohamed Sanu on the roster. We haven't even talked about him. And I saw a stat. Can't remember who posted it on Twitter, but between Cedric Wilson and Mohamed Sanu, 12 for 13 career passing on end arounds. You brought up the Cedric Wilson thing the other week. I didn't even know about that. That he had 5 or 6 career attempts. I think he completed all of them.
Yeah, he's got 100% completion rating.
Yeah, Mohamed Sanu is an even better one. I don't think Sanu actually makes the team.
Sanu doesn't have a better 100% completion percentage.
No, he doesn't. He missed one pass, but I think he's 6 out of 7, something like that. But he's got a couple of touchdowns. I know he threw a long touchdown. It was 50-something yards. I think it was to Marvin Hall when he was with the Falcons. Anyway, he's a veteran. I think that he stays here, shows players the ropes, gets a paycheck, gets cut, and sails off into the sunset. Only caught 17 passes for the 49ers last year. But when you look at that logjam, I go back to 2 players vying for one roster spot. That's Braylon Sanders and Lynn Bowden. And Lynn Bowden not having a good camp so far, according to reports. But he didn't have a good camp for the Raiders in 2020 when he was drafted in the 3rd round. That's why he was traded to the Dolphins for less, which is kind of unheard of for a player that same year. He gets on the field and he catches almost 40 passes and he doesn't drop one pass. And then the following year in 2021, he has a terrible camp with the Dolphins again. They hide him on IR. He comes back in 2022, is not having a good camp again. Dropped another fumble the other day, or another punt return the other day. But it seems like Lynn Bowden's a gamer, though, too. Like, you turn on the lights and he's a different player. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic of whether you keep Lynn Bowden in the deep wide receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially when you start considering the special teams prowess of players, and you've got somebody from the CFL and Devontae Dedmon that really had some great career stats as a return man and shows electric speed. And then Preston Williams is fumbling away punts and crying to everybody. Sorry, I was looking up Cedric Wilson. So Cedric Wilson is 5 for 5, 100% completion rating, 111 passing yards on the 5 completions and attempts. Touchdown percentage of 20% because he does have 1 touchdown. 4 first downs on 5 on. So he 80% of his passes all time have gone for first downs. And he's averaging 22.2 yards per attempt. And as a QBR of 99.9 and 99.3 across 2 seasons.
And Mohamed Sanu?
You're gonna make me look that up too?
No, I'm on it here because I know he had a deep touchdown here.
His passer rating is 158.3 3 in his career.
All right, and because we got to look up Mohamed Sanu now. So Mohamed Sanu, for his career, is 7 for 8 for 233 yards and 4 touchdowns. You heard that correct. But don't worry, he's not making the roster. So but I liked. I mean, you're talking about somebody here who has been on what, Bengals, Falcons, Patriots, 49ers, Lions, and now the Dolphins. And he's been around the league, and he obviously is somebody Mike McDaniel is familiar with. And teaching the verbiage is so very important for this offense here. And I love that Wes Welker is the wide receiver coach here. What I loved, and I heard the other day, is that Wes Welker, after practice, he makes the rookie receivers, and maybe this is standard, I don't know, but he makes the rookie receivers memorize the exact routes that they run and draw out the exact plays when they go home before they go to bed, because that's how Wes Welker learned. Because you're not Wes Welker by not knowing the exact play and running the exact route every time. So I'm excited to have him here, excited to have Sam Madison, excited to have Patrick Surtain, because they fit these schemes perfectly.
Oh, and you know what? Sam, actually, speaking of him, was fun on Mic'd Up from training camp this past week. Because as good of a corner, or great of a corner as Sam was, I don't think any of his skills in his quiver quite compare with his ability to talk, as you and I both know. But no, I'm very, very happy for Sam being back in Miami. I think he's going to do a great job with the secondary. I think Wes is going to do a great job with some of the receivers in this receiver room.
And even though Noah Igbenogany and Trill Williams, who we'll get to in a bit, have shown promise, I love that he's been very vocal in the media too about how they need to be more physical. Because Sam had to be physical, and Surtain was obviously physical as well. So Paul, gun to your head here at wide receiver. You know, you've got the top 4 guys: Hill, Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Ezukama. Who makes the roster as the 5th and 6th guy? I've got my opinion.
I think Lynn Bowden makes it,
or maybe 7 receivers, whatever you want to put out there.
And I think Braylon Sanders, and then I think Devontae Dedmon makes it as the return man, as far as what they have in that returner room.
Got it. Dedmon is competing with Waddle, with Tyreek Hill, with Chase Edmonds for that kick returner job. They're all going to get opportunities.
Chase Edmonds better not be doing it, definitely. And I'd be pretty pissed about Waddle or Hill doing it more than situationally.
I'm fine with any of them, with Waddle or Hill being punt returners situationally and rotating out. Yeah, I see. I have a problem with keeping someone like Dedmon on the roster very simply to be a returner. Like, I mean, because you in that situation, you've got to keep him on your active roster too. You can't just, because he's likely not going to see the field, not going to play special teams, other than being a returner. Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with that a little bit, and I don't mind Chase Edmonds doing it. My prerequisite for any returner: don't drop the football. If you fumble, even once or twice throughout the year, not interested in having you. I'd rather have somebody that just catches the ball, gets the yardage they can, puts the Dolphins in the correct field position. Don't try to be a hero. So yeah, as far as receiver, I think Trent Sherfield makes the team, because you hear Wes Welker talk about him, raves about this guy from the 49ers, and can play special teams. And I had an exchange with Simon Clancy from the 3 Yards Per Carry Network as well, and he said that Sherfield is a lock to make the roster. I don't go that far, but I think that the 6th receiver is going to be a special teams guy in some way. So that leads me to think that it's Lynn Bowden versus Braylon Sanders versus kind of the rest of the crew. I'm going to give the edge to Lynn Bowden right now. He's got to start showing something. He can't just be a game day
Yeah.
player. So, anyway, tight end, Mike Gesicki, Durham Smythe, and Hunter Long. Hunter Long has not had a good camp so far. He's dropped a lot of passes. Do you think the Dolphins keep a fourth tight end?
Nah. I think we keep 3, and right now it looks like it's going to be Shaheen and
Well, we got Gesicki, we've got Durham Smythe, we got Hunter Long, and it looks this is where it gets interesting because Alec Ingold's obviously making the roster.
Mhm.
Um,
What positions he play again?
well, he's one of the best fullbacks in the league. I mean, that's
I will say, what was it? Vanette made a couple of highlight plays from what I hear too, though.
who?
Vanette.
Vanette? No, he's a tight end for another team. John Lovett?
Love it.
No,
Sorry.
he's out. He's already injured.
Well, he was making some plays early in the week.
Yeah, I bet he was. Except now he's injured. And he's
So we can stash him
stash him where?
on IR.
For what? Get
You know,
rid of him. Just
emergency fullback
done,
later in the year.
He's out. In my mind, he's already cut. Or on injured reserve. Anyway,
Yeah, we can activate him in week 10.
For what?
With a fullback system.
To
Go
do
power
nothing?
eye. Let's go.
Not no. Let's
Power eye
not
with
go.
2
Let's not
fullbacks.
go. So anyway, so you got Ingold, you got Gesicki, who's basically a receiver. You got Durham Smythe, you've got Hunter Long, and I think Hunter Long is at least going to get one more year. But then Ethan Carter and Adam Shaheen, that's going to, I think at best one makes the roster. And somebody said in chat here as well that just like late round trade possibilities, Myles Gaskin, Adam Shaheen, Preston Williams, maybe Lynn Bowden. I think other teams with how deep the Dolphins are, excuse me, I'll step back, with how top heavy the Dolphins are and how much talent they have on the front line now on offense at running back, wide receiver, and tight end. I think if you're another team, you'd be crazy not to flip a late round pick to the Dolphins.
Depth at fullback, all those things.
No. Shaheen or Ethan Carter or Preston Williams or Lynn Bowden. No. But yeah, I think I mean the Dolphins traded a 7th round pick for Adam Shaheen, and I think he served his value. He caught 15 or 20 passes. He some of them for long gains, a couple of them for long gains. That's all you can expect out of a 7th round pick. That's why I'd never own a 7th round pick, even though the Dolphins, came away with a Jason Sanders and a Rashard Matthews in those rounds. So, offensive line, Paul. It has not been a good camp for Greg Little and Larnell Coleman. They are not stepping up. They are not answering the call. Robert Jones has been pretty quiet. Michael Dieter's been hurt as a backup.
I'm all right with quiet from an offensive lineman. I mean,
excuse me. I'll take that back. Dieter is hurt. Coleman and Little are terrible. So that's a problem now.
No,
but I tell you what,
you said Jones. You were talking about Jones.
Oh yeah, I'd have to say too that Robert Jones makes the roster easily.
Yeah.
I mean, very comfortably.
Quiet is not a terrible thing for a backup lineman to be when he's on the field.
Right, and
not hearing his name's a good thing.
You look at guard and you look at tackle. Robert Jones can play both. There's not a lot of depth at either spot. I think he makes the roster comfortably. What's going to be interesting to see, and the guy who's got everything in front of him now, by default, is Solomon Kinley. He could make this roster, even though he's not the best scheme fit.
I warned you.
Yeah, don't take victory laps on Solomon Kinley right now.
Hey, they're long laps to run around Solomon Kinley, so I will take them at my leisure.
And then at backup,
I put him at fullback in an emergency.
I'll tell you one guy who will not leave, who is now the new Isaiah Ford of this team, is Adam Pankey. He's now taking snaps at center. He may make this roster again as the Dolphin swing tackle. I mean, the versatility.
You had me
alone.
at the new Isaiah Ford.
Isaiah Ford, by the way, is an Indianapolis Colt. He's on the Colts
He'll
roster.
be back before the season's
We know
over.
how this is going to end. He's gonna be back, but I've got to say though too is that it's really concerning, this depth on the offensive line. I mean, Teron Armstead has uh, returned to practice today. I mean, I really had his first showing at practice. Looked every bit the part. He takes care of his body so well. Showed that athleticism. I hope that he doesn't push it here, because we know that he's going to show up week one. Liam Eichenberg, haven't heard a lot of, which, like you said, is good news. Connor Williams needs to learn to snap the ball better or move back to left guard, kick Eichenberg out. Robert Hunt is an improving player by the day. And right tackle Austin Jackson got bull rushed by Jalen Phillips the other day and got run over, but a lot of people have been doing that. But I like what I'm seeing and hearing so far about Austin Jackson. But after that, the depth, not so good. So something to keep an eye on. Do you maybe look at Bobby Massey in free agency? Do you maybe look at a veteran who can just put a finger in the dam and not ruin the season if something happens?
Chris Greer treats centers like you treat fullbacks.
That's accurate.
He just
Very
doesn't
accurate.
want any on his roster.
Yep. And keep in mind they signed Connor Williams, and then did they sign Connor Williams with the pure intention to play him at center? Maybe. And if they did, they paid him a lot of money for it. But I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for centers either. Typically, I mean, Ted Karras. I wish Ted Karras was still here, to be quite honest with you, for $3 or $4 million a year. Instead, they sign a borderline paraplegic and
Jesus
Skura.
Christ.
What? No, he's actually in the league somewhere. So anyway, on the defensive side of the ball, Paul. Hey, Paul, get your head up. Come on.
I'm busy laughing. Borderline paraplegic. Jesus.
So actually, let's double back to the tight end spot. One thing to keep an eye on as well. Tanner Connor starting to make some noise out of Idaho. The converted wide receiver to tight end. Caught a 35-yard pass the other day at the end of Wednesday's practice. And he's somebody that if he continues to build on himself, you'd be crazy to throw off this team.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially
Or
with
practice squad, excuse me.
other people underperforming right now. It might not be so crazy to keep him on this team if he continues.
Yeah, or at least on the practice squad. The defensive side of the ball. I mean, one thing I'm getting really excited about. I mean, we know what to expect from Emmanuel Ogbah and expect from Christian Wilkins, but Jalen Phillips, 5 sacks in 5 days, according to the reports I've followed here, and Raekwon Davis looks in a lot better shape, and with his size and with his length, he's looking like somebody like this whole defensive line is coming together, especially at the edge spots too, where, I mean, at defensive tackle, Wilkins, Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis. At the edge spots, Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel has been ripping it up in camp here. I mean, just getting sack after sack. Melvin Ingram's on board. I mean, you were 7 or 8 deep here at this defensive line, and that doesn't even account for Adam Butler failing a physical.
Yeah, that hurt. I really liked what I saw from him down the stretch last year. But no, this defensive line is one of the best in the NFL. I mean, this defense as a whole is one of the best in the NFL. And they're very encouraging early. One of the things I've loved too is the holes that are being opened, trying to block this front 4 or 5, if you want to count the edge rush, and leaving some holes for Channing Tindall to take advantage of, Jerome Baker to take advantage of, because that is a lot of speed on the interior of that defense, right in the middle behind that defensive line, which, Zach Sealer keeps proving that they got to steal as far as that contract went.
They did, and that's one of the best contracts I've ever seen, given the value that was put out there. Um, Opinions on Cedric Wilson? Will he break out? Any predictions? Zerk, I think he's going to have a really good role in this team. I don't think there's enough. I don't think there are enough footballs to go around though for him to be like the 70 catch, 1,000-yard guy. And he is the fourth option on this team, and he signed a 3-year, $22 million contract. I mean, that's speaks to the weapons the Dolphins have on the offensive side of the ball. I mean,
I'm dying reading our chat right now, Kat.
yeah,
There's so
I'm
much.
reading it. I'm reading it too. I love it. And Dolphin 316, what's up, bud? He and I go back 20, 25 years here. When I was I was on a different message board at that time.
There's so much fullback talk though, Kat. So
Yeah,
much fullback
right,
talk.
and that's the only crap that I don't even listen to. So
Keep it up, folks. Keep it up. Make him hear
talk.
you.
Jesus, give it a rest, people. Yeah, Christian Wilkins could probably play fullback, says Rick Kyle. Yes, he has, which is what me. I mean, I could play a fullback, to be honest with you. I mean, they're useless people.
Guys, click the like button if you want a fullback on this team.
One competition that I think is kind of under the radar is that final edge spot, because there's so many players there vying for that spot. Brendan Scarlett's been moved to defensive end. I mean, it's not a big adjustment for him. He's a good edge setter. But you've got a really decent competition between Brendan Scarlett, Porter Gustin, excuse me, the former USC Trojan, was with the Browns. He had 2 sacks the other day. He had a lot of injury problems, but definitely looks the part. And then you've also got Good, the Dolphins 7th round pick, Cameron Good from California, and also Hodge, the defensive end as well, who actually dressed for
Darius
2 games
Hodge.
last year. Darius Hodge, thank you. So you've got a good 4-way competition there for the final edge spot. Maybe I'm the only one getting interested in this. Just anything to get away from fullback talk.
Cody Gibbs, that is amazing, dude. He's trying to get us to do 2 minutes of fullback talk.
No, never. I can do it. We've actually done way too much of it. But
yeah, somebody has a point though. Jim McEwen does have a point. Some of our fullbacks could probably snap better than the centers we have. Just putting it out in the ether.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Williams has got to step his game up. That's for sure. And we're going to see. I'll tell you this: if in any preseason game, if Connor Williams sails the ball over to his head, this is gonna catch fire, and it's going to go into a completely different level. And then you probably got to move Connor Williams back to left guard. I mean, yeah, Dolphins maybe should have got a center somewhere along the way. Maybe a Creed,
2 years, 3.
Maybe Creed Humphrey instead of Liam Eichenberg in that draft. Man, that would look good now.
They could
How
have
about a
drafted
first?
Zach Tom.
Yeah, Zach Tom can play tackle. He can play guard. He can play center. Yeah, I mean, he's moved back and forth. I know Dolphin 316 is a Zach Tom enthusiast. So defensive tackle John Jenkins is going to make this roster, I think. Or do you think he might get some competition here from Benito Jones?
He might get some competition. I mean, I don't think either of them is going to see the playing time that we saw from Adam Butler last year, as far as that goes.
Scummy and Grandizer asked where Veron McKinley and Kellen Deach. I haven't heard a lot about them yet. It's a little bit concerning with McKinley that we've heard more about Sheldrick Redwine instead of him, because McKinley needs to stand out and he needs to be that firecracker early in camp. He doesn't have the physical tools to stay around long term. If he doesn't shine here in these preseason games, he's going to be one of those guys to look for early on, then there's no point to keep him on the roster at all. So I like his production, but small and slow is not a good combination. He needs to make up for it with intelligence.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, Kellen Deach as a possible center also I don't hate that idea, and I think it is a possibility that he could end up becoming the center by the end of camp, or the backup center, if they end up going with Dieter. So
What, you
sorry.
said the same thing last year about Larnell Coleman. Like, what is your thing with 6'7" tackles thinking that they can be centers?
I'm pretty sure Deesh actually played some center in the past.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Never
I
played.
thought
Center.
it was Deesh that did.
Never played 6 years of tackle in college. Never played center.
Maybe
in high school.
I think that was what it was.
And he's 6'7", 290. Come on. The whole thing is with short arms. Anyway,
I like big centers, damn it.
he's not big either.
Big centers and fullbacks.
All right. So linebacker. Off-ball linebacker, obviously, you're going to have a couple of locks here. You're going to have Jerome Baker. You're going to have Landon Roberts, because he's basically got a guaranteed contract. You've got Channing Tindall, the Dolphins' first pick. I've got to say Duke Riley is a lock at this point too. He's had an incredible camp, and I think if Jerome Baker goes down, he replaces him. That Duke Riley replaces him in middle linebacker.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be the 4 I was talking about before, even though I like Duke Riley. I think Duke Riley may make it as an edge player that can kick inside occasionally. But I really think Channing Tindall, Landon Roberts, Jerome Baker, and Sam Egglevon make this team.
Yeah, Egglevon's had a great camp too. And Leighton, you've made a lot of great points here in the chat. Blaise Andres is somebody that we've really got to look at here because of his versatility. I mean, somebody who played every position but center at Minnesota. And also too, Christopher Dunkley made a lot of great points as well. Signed a punter today. Helfrichter, I'm blanking on his first name, was a 7th round pick of the Falcons out of Syracuse back in 2020. Hasn't actually punted in NFL football yet, but if you're drafted anywhere in the draft over the last couple of years, obviously you have some ability. The Dolphins cut their undrafted free agent. I'm blanking on the name as well. I mean, punters are basically fullbacks. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, after he posted some videos of himself, what was it? I don't know.
Sterling Helfrichter is his name.
Yeah. Not gonna be here anymore.
Yeah, not gonna be here anymore. I agree.
Oh, I think we've got a Pats fan in chat talking about 23 years, 0 playoff wins incoming. Yeah, okay.
Hey, thank you for the contribution there. I mean, I think I think you guys got a Mac Jones problem. I mean, lift, bro. I mean, I think
reports aren't great out of Patriots camp as far as the offense goes.
Well, but Belichick likes him a lot. He said a good thing or two about him, but I think he's going to.
Wow, head coach said some good stuff about his quarterback that he locked himself into.
Right? No. Yeah, and I mean, after Tua's been running his mouth, they tried to match that. But the Dolphins have to prove it in week 1. They have to prove it. And if you cannot, after everything we've talked about, if Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle cannot take advantage of those loser cornerbacks the Patriots have, Malcolm Butler and Jalen Mills, these are people that should be not even in the NFL. Jalen Mills was getting mossed by Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker in a 2019 game. I mean, it's going to be 4 in a row week 1. You can mark it down. Dolphins are going to win that game. And this loser, thank you for the $5.
Mm-hmm. We already talked about the cheating, dude. Like, what more do you want to hear about it? That's my place there.
They did cheat. They got caught.
Yeah.
Steve Ross is a bumbling moron. What else can you say? Why doesn't your owner go get rub downs again? He's actually, Bob Kraft is a better owner than Steve Ross. I mean, there's no denying that. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So, deflate, Zombie Finn, love you, man. But Deflategate, Deflategate didn't happen really. That was a BS story. Spygate did happen though.
Yeah.
Defensive back, Paul. We're continuing to make our way through. I see some locks on the. I mean, I see. To me, 5 locks at cornerback. I mean, no, 4 locks at cornerback. We talked about this before. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Kean Crossan. Kean Crossan is special teams demon. Signed a 3-year, $10 million contract, most of it guaranteed. He's going to be on the roster. Trill Williams and Noah Igbenogany are duking it out every day to be those 5th and 6th cornerbacks. It seems like they've got a pretty good stranglehold on those. Cater Kohu is somebody that needs to really pick it up in these preseason games because he's been the guy that's been not really taking advantage of that situation yet.
He's made a lot of good plays from what I understand. Like he's had a couple of misses, but overall he's been exceeding expectations from the things I've heard.
We got different sources on that then.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but
he's gotten beat a few times by Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill, but I can live with that.
Yep.
There's 6 corner.
There's no better way to get acclimated to the NFL than that.
Yeah.
So, and there's also, something to be said too about, and it's something to look at in these 3 preseason games on August 13th, 20th, and 27th, as well as these practices. This is where August really gets interesting here in general. But Kellen Deesh and Cater Kohu are 2 undrafted free agents who got over $100,000 signing bonuses. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It really is basically an extension of a draft pick almost, because I mean, you look at last year, Robert Jones made the roster. He was always on the inside looking out as far as a roster spot, even though he just kind of did his job. But they gave him over $100,000 to be that priority undrafted free agent. And I think you're going to see Deesh and Kohu, given the money that they would get and given, the bonuses that they got, given the benefit of the doubt, if things are close between Kellen Deesh and Larnell Coleman or Greg Little, who are going to be making a little bit more money.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kohu's a guy that we also knew was very raw and coming from a low level of competition, but showed tremendous ability and athleticism. So we knew he was going to take a little time. So if he's hanging in that battle, in honesty, I like him and Trill Williams better than I like Igbenogany right now, even though Igbenogany has tremendous athleticism.
Trill Williams might be the biggest star of camp so far. You're talking about, and thanks for bringing that up as well. See, I lose track of. I like Trill more than Noah. Leighton says absolutely. I mean, I think that's a reasonable conclusion, because Trill is making the most of his opportunity, and Trill has been known as a physical freak. I mean, at Syracuse, we've been talking about him as a cornerback, as a safety, as a linebacker. I mean, he's all over the place. But you look at Sports Illustrated had him in Dolphins camp as their number 1 star in day 1. He had a one-handed interception. He was going up against the second team, blanketing receivers. Trill Williams is taking that next step up. Can we say the same about Noah Igbenogany right now? I don't think we can. But also, too, Brett Dodger mentions in chat, Noah's only 22 years old. He was barely 20 when he was drafted, which is why, quite honestly, he was a foolish draft pick, given the circumstances.
How old's Trill Williams? I don't have that.
I would say that same age.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's outplaying him in the same age, you can't really talk about how young he is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Trill Williams is 22. So yeah, I mean, more physical ability in Trill Williams, showing more in camp. They come from completely different backgrounds. Trill Williams was a raw player out of Syracuse, was cut immediately by the Saints 3 days into them signing him as an undrafted free agent. The Dolphins not only signed him last year, but also uh, put him on the 53-man roster when there was no reason to do that at the time based on what he could contribute. But now he's somebody that is starting to work his way up. He's somebody I'm rooting for and looking for here in these preseason games. Finally, Paul, Jason Sanders has looks like he has gotten back on track. Two of the last
Amazing what
three
a difference a holder can make.
Yeah. Mike Pilardi, is he cleaning bathrooms yet?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Talking to Thomas Morstead about holding on those extra points and field goals, I kind of feel like he was going to be that stabilizing force in Jason Sanders' career, and it sounds like he's doing that.
Yeah. And hey, look, Pilardi's had a few good seasons in the NFL, and I wish him the best of luck, and I'm joking, obviously. But Jason Sanders, 2 of the last 3 days, has nailed 6 kicks with a max of 52 yards. Looks like he's starting to get that groove back after signing that contract. And I think the talent is there with Jason Sanders. And he was a big part of the team here in 2020. And I would say he made the difference in at least 3 wins. 2021, not the same story, but I think the talent is there. We've run through a lot here, Paul. And I'm going to end with this here is I look at 9 players because I couldn't come up with any more who are to me are rising as far as training camp so far. 3 starters. Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, and Jason Sanders are really starting to show as young players that they're taking advantage of this training camp. And Eric Ezukama is becoming a star here of training camp. Not a star yet, but he's starting to solidify that 4th receiver role, that big, angry slot guy. And out of Texas Tech, with his wide receiver coach Wes Welker, they have a deep appreciation for route running. Savon Ahmed, somebody who I thought was a complete afterthought, is showing up again and again in practice reports, especially in the receiving game. And it also needs to be noted that Savon Ahmed was signed as a undrafted free agent first from the 49ers, didn't show much, and they had a deep running back room. But he has more of that north to south ability than a Myles Gaskin. And I think he's ahead of Myles Gaskin right now on that pecking chart.
I think I said something about the fact that I thought Ahmed could be a dark horse for this roster based on his speed and explosiveness and ability. So I agree with you.
Okay. Braylon Sanders, obviously. At linebacker, Duke Riley and Sam Egwavon, who say Egwavon just will not go away, nor should he. I mean, somebody Paul liked as well. Trill Williams, we talked about. Paul also liked him. I could start talking about fullbacks. Paul didn't. Paul also liked the, I know, in grocery stores. Speaking of players who suck,
Brandeis just pulled out a stat. Paul Pickens Jr.'s 2022 Miami Dolphins season prediction. Oh, never mind. I thought it was
13-4.
I thought I was 13-4 as far as my predictions thus far. But
right now I'm going with right now I'm going with because the AFC is so tough, 10-7, 11-6. And it's not a slap in the face. I think the Dolphins next 2 or 3 years are going to be getting into the playoffs and then working their way up from there. It sucks having the Bills in your division. Bills are consensus number 1 power ranking team, and they are for a reason. But on The negative side, players that I think have not shown up so far in training camp: Miles Gaskin, Garrett Dokes, Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden, Hunter Long, the offensive tackles, Greg Little and Larnell Coleman, Noah Igbenogany, and really any cornerback behind Igbenogany has also not shown up. They seem to be beat routinely in practice. Cater Kohu is somebody who has the physical tools. We'll see if he capitalizes on them. Paul, anything that you want to add here before we sign off for the night?
Nah, man. Thanks to everybody that hopped in the chat. Loved all the fullback talk this evening. And, Steve Ross being suspended doesn't make a huge difference. I will miss those draft picks, though.
I would probably give a first and third rounder if Steve Ross sold the team, but just to anybody but Bruce Beal. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not going outside of the Ross family. Let's be honest here. I just wish he would just focus on concession stand, bring the beers down from 12 to 8. That's it. That's it. Come back 6 weeks into the season, take beers down to $5 a beer, and everybody will be fine. You'll be the toast of the town. Thank you for
take
joining
$1
us.
off for every win.
I think it's good policy. Thank you for joining us here tonight on the Fin Side. I'm Brian Cat, NFL, Paul is Fanatic_pick. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the Fansided Network. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the Fin Side.